Hello, void and all who inhabit it. It's me, and I'm wondering, are you lost, baby girl? I'm kidding, we're not talking about that today. Though, if you're looking to watch something to help decompress, actually, I can't recommend that. Go watch Blood and Water instead, if you're on Netflix anyway. It's been a month since I've posted, and it has undoubtedly been the longest 4 weeks in my personal history. I've finally begun to think of some content I want to create, but like many other people, I don't feel comfortable doing so without addressing current events. When the new Dave Chappelle special was released earlier last week, on the 11th, girl, I don't know math, I saw my following thoughts about it as a means of blending my channel's janky media commentary structure with my duty to acknowledge the change being demanded by the protests and other actions. Then, Toyin Salau was found dead. Oluwatoyin Salau was a 19-year-old activist and model based in Tallahassee, Florida. Toyin, like a lot of kids right now, like a lot of black femmes right now, was doing work on the ground, participating directly in protest. I encourage you to look her up and learn more about who she was, not just what happened to her, with the warning that what happened to her may be triggering to you. But also, I implore you to recognize the need for liberation to be multifaceted. Toyin isn't a cautionary tale or a data point. She was a kid, doing and enduring more than any kid should have to. She matters as more than a mouthpiece for a movement. Her life should be celebrated, and the loss of her life should be grieved. Even as the topic of this video cast will shift away from her story, I want to remind us to hold space for and continue to care about Toyin and all black women as the full people we are. A lot of cities are going to be holding events in her name in the coming days, and that attention to me is bittersweet. We should be paying attention to what happened to Toyin, but she needed care and resources from her community when she was alive, not just now. I want to make clear that Toyin was loved and looked out for in life. I started this outline before she was found, but I had been aware Toyin was missing because of the photos and details her friends and fellow organizers had shared on Twitter for nearly a week at that point. So I'm talking about a wider support from the community as a whole. When I saw the post, saw the first hashtag for her, I was worried but had faith that someone that vocal. There was a video of her making a speech at a march that was already being spread before she went missing, I think, because people were so moved. I thought if we value her voice, we surely value her personhood, and she would be safe. I don't have an eloquent way to process this grief for you. I think Karkeisha Kent did a beautiful job, and her article will be linked in the description box below, but this shit is heart-wrenching. I'm also uploading this on Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. If you don't know, Juneteenth is a holiday that commemorates the day former slaves in Texas learned that they were free. It happened 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. When I think about this holiday, one of the things I think about is in the midst of celebration, what additional damage was done because of that delayed freedom. What additional damage is being done today as we continue to deny freedom, complete freedom, to black women, to black members of the LGBT community, to all groups of black people that have intersecting aspects of marginalization. Thinking about that, paired with the news of what happened to Toyin, amplified the need for the following conversation with myself. So like I said before, earlier this month, Dave Chappelle released a new comedy special, I guess you could call it, focused on the Black Lives Matter movement. It immediately received high praise, being heralded as this stunning, harsh, but necessary commentary, as often happens whenever Dave Chappelle creates something new. I thought it was interesting how he has a bit fairly early in the special where he addresses Don Lemon's call for celebrities to be more vocal, and he says essentially that celebrities don't need to speak on this stuff because we as a collective should be listening to the organizers and the people doing the work on the ground, which I agree with. But he then went on to spend like 25 minutes talking about exactly what he said he doesn't need to talk about. His special, as of Wednesday when I checked, no, what day is it? As of his special, as of the 16th of June, had 21 million views. How many retweets and likes do organizers who are sharing information from the ground get? Maybe that was the actual joke and it just like flew overhead, you know? Ignoring that, it does not make sense to me to have a whole special focused on discussing institutionalized state-sanctioned violence against Black people and not mention one Black woman who has been a victim of police brutality or state-sanctioned violence, to not mention one Black trans woman. And the thing is, when you bring that up, when you bring up that there are only 3 Black women named in the special and 2 of whom are referred to disparagingly, people claim you're being divisive, that you're being unnecessarily critical, that you're a hater. And this happens all the time when talking about Black liberation, not just now, not just with Dave Chappelle's special. And here's the thing. If your politic, if your understanding of liberation can only center Black cis men, it is a politic that will lead to the recreation of all the current systems of oppression, but with Black men at the helm instead of white ones. If that's what you want, if you just want oppression to work in your favor, say that shit with your chest, so that we can be clear that there is work to be done with you too. But to silence or shut down people who are trying to facilitate that work, who are trying to call attention to the fact that just like racism, misogyny, and transphobia do not only exist in the overt acts, but in the fabric of our everyday, is to further your investment in oppressive systems that ultimately will not benefit you or our communities. I need more people to admit that they don't want liberation. They want power. Because then you can start the work at the space in which you actually need to begin. I'll give you another example of people being more invested in benefiting from harmful systems and dismantling them. B. Simone's book drama. I am admittedly not her target audience. I'm not interested in her brand of self-help / self-actualization and manifestation messages. And apparently neither is she, because she stole all of that content, allegedly. When news broke of that, a lot of people were quick to defend B. Simone by arguing that she is a Black woman and others are looking for any reason to tear her down because of that, and that she needs more support because of that. It is true that it is much easier to take a Black woman's platform away than anyone else's, and that people are more willing to do that. But at the same time, she is an alleged plagiarist who scammed people out of $1 million in revenue for an overpriced coloring book. Why are you invested in protecting a capitalist who does not care about her audience enough to scramble up the list of stolen Pinterest questions she is allegedly republishing as her own ideas? And she's not the only budding Black capitalist people are willing to jump through flaming hoops for, which begs the further question, why are you invested in protecting any Black capitalist who cares more about building their own personal generational wealth or flipping 200 into 2,000 in 2 days or whatever the it is than they are about using their positioning and privilege to help their local communities genuinely? Not shaming people or having condescending content, but opening their purse and doing something impactful. They got money, they'll be okay without you losing sleep to go to war for them on Twitter. But we love to root for Black capitalists because it's more appealing, it's more normalized and supported than recognizing that the whole system being corrupt includes Black capitalism. We love to root for Black men saying the shit you scared to say, allegedly, because it's more scary to acknowledge that they have and often take advantage of their potential to benefit from systematic oppression as well, albeit differently. But here's the thing. We will not achieve a modicum of freedom if you continue to be unwilling to divest from the harmful systems that benefit you. We will not reach freedom if preventing the discomfort of some continues to be valued more than the need to destroy the systems that marginalize others across axes of oppression. White people, regardless of whatever intersection of marginalization they may have, need to question why they're still comfortable with white supremacy as long as sexism or homophobia, for example, are addressed. Black cis men need to question why they're invested in the maintenance of cis heteropatriarchy as long as white supremacy is addressed so that they can benefit more fully. Black people in general need to question why we're invested in protecting and desiring to be capitalists, despite the fact that capitalism and white supremacy work hand in hand. This work is individual as well as institutionalized. It doesn't matter if you change the rules if the people who have to follow them still believe in the Like, let's look at me. I'm a queer Black woman, but I'm also able-bodied. Navigating how I consume media with these different identity markers means that it's just as necessary for me to question content like a hashtag that's full of people insulting 45's physical and neurological health as it is for me to criticize the narrow scope of Dave Chappelle's special, even though the former doesn't impact me as directly. Hello, AC girl, how are you? As people are kikiing about different theories of what could be going on with 45, there's disabled people watching folks be encouraged to use someone's health as a point of personal attack, and that's upsetting. That should be upsetting to everyone. Similarly, people like to insult 45 based on his weight. If you believe him to be a nefarious piece of shit, he has to be critiqued on that without relying on shameful stereotypes and jokes that impact whole groups of people unattached to him. When that man is gone, when the very explicit racism that he symbolizes has been temporarily disarmed, seemingly, your ableism and fat phobia remains. And if anything, is validated for some people because the remarks were attached to someone who's viewed negatively. Regardless, that fat phobia and ableism will still be embedded in people and institutions and ultimately lead to decisions that harm other people. That's the wider problem. Independent of someone being a shithole, utilizing another axis of marginalization to your benefit allows the perpetuation of systems which are damaging. Not even in this example specifically to 45, right? Like, he'll be fine, I really don't care. But those negative remarks towards fat people, towards disabled people, are being validated, encouraged even, and that's one act within a larger issue that is still an issue even if it doesn't affect you directly. And you should be upset about that. When a marginalized person uses one of their intersections of privilege against another person who does not have that same privilege, that is also an act that should be addressed and unpacked. White supremacy may be a major branch of the tree of bullshit, but all these systems of oppression branch off of each other. To truly dismantle one is to dismantle them all, but that can't happen if we are still comfortable with classism or sexism or homophobia or anything that benefits us even as it harms others. If in the midst of a series of protests, calling attention to the excessive and unnecessary violence directed towards Black people, you can see a Black trans woman and decide to join a group of others to physically beat her down, if you can read about dozens of Black women calling attention to the specific harms against us, some of whom have been doing so for decades, and your immediate reaction is to shut them down, to police their tone, if you silence Black members of the LGBT community who bring up racism in gay spaces, homophobia and transphobia in Black spaces, or both, because you believe that they can only hold one of those identity markers at a time, if you think your markers of higher class or education status will save you, that you should be denoted as someone worth saving because you have them, you do not actually think Black lives matter, because you are setting parameters on which Black lives deserve to be cared for. A fight for liberation that comes with caveats is not a quest for freedom. It is a race for more positional power. And we deserve more than to just switch out the leaders and figureheads and jargon of corrupt systems with new ones. We say we want change. That means examining what you need to give up, not just what you can gain. If you made it to the end, the AC and I would like to thank you for making it to the end. A banana is tired. I might disappear for a month again. If my desk is ever delivered, I do want to start a gameplay of the best video game of all time, in part to see if I like doing that, but also to produce some type of content that's, helping distract us from the end of the world, if just for 20 minutes. It might also explode my computer though, so, this is all pending. Oh, bye, AC. I'm trying to get back to consuming content for leisure, because again, we all need breaks to avoid burnout. There's no reason to be unfair to ourselves. Anyway, all this is to say, I will hopefully see y'all again soon. Till then, stay safe. I'll see you in the next echo chamber.